So today I wanted to talk to you guys about 5 things that I think a lot of pro players have been doing in this game and the previous game to become so good that you probably aren't doing. Now you might be doing some of these things, but I'm guessing you probably aren't doing all of them. Now with that in mind, this video does apply to competitive players, to casual players, and to really just anybody who wants to become a little bit better at the game. And I'm gonna say right here, you don't have to follow every single tip to a T, because it kind of depends on how good you want to be at the game and how much effort you want to put into the game to what you're getting out. So with that all in mind, with that said, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to say that a lot of pro players did in the previous game that I'm going to say as well is going to be probably very important to do if you want to be very competitive in this game is going to be having one main and one secondary. Now I'm not going to say every single pro player in the last game, Smash 4, had a main and a secondary, but if you actually look at the top 50 players, the vast majority did. And the people that didn't were all essentially playing top 5 or top 3 characters where they didn't really have that many bad matchups because their character was just so freaking good. And I think that same exact thing is going to apply in Smash Ultimate. There's going to be some characters like, the top 3, top 5 that you can pick up in pretty much every match. But if you're playing, essentially anybody else, it's probably going to be a good idea to pick up a secondary character and to use them when your character has bad matchups. And the reason for this is that there are just so many characters in this game. There's just a ton. And even the really good characters, in some cases, actually have a pretty hard matchup versus some of the characters that are traditionally not that amazing, just because of the way that the moves interact, that the characters interact, that just everything works out. That's just kind of how it works when you have so many characters. So a lot of these times you can say, hey, my character isn't working that well, I can play my second character and probably do a lot better. Now I'm going to use a good situation right here. Let's say that you're a Ganondorf man, and Ganondorf, I'm going to say, is actually pretty strong in this game. He can wall out a lot of people, he can actually get a decent amount of combos out, he can kill super early, he's overall a pretty good character. However, if you're playing versus really campy characters, sometimes I'm going to say it can be really hard for you to get in. Sometimes people can just, completely stop you. So what do you want to do in this situation? Maybe pick up an anti-camping character for yourself as a secondary. Now this could be someone like Wolf, his blaster and his reflector's really good at this. Somebody like Mii Gunner, as weird as that may sound, I've had a lot of success with that. Or just whoever else you feel like could beat that type of character. And there you go, now you have a pretty decent team that you can pull out in essentially any situation, again, versus friends or in a competitive tournament. Now I'm going to say right here, of course, you probably do want to play your main as much as humanly possible. And when we even see these players in competitive tournaments, in like EVO, they're mainly playing their main. But when the matchup isn't that good, then they swap off, then they play their other character. And even though they might not be as good as them, if the matchup really is, awful, a lot of the times just your fundamentals, your spacing, your combos, all the things that you're used to will apply to your secondary, and you can pull that in. Plus, the good parts that are, good about them against who you're fighting, and, oftentimes win a match with that. I'm going to say that, this might not apply to everybody, but this can be very helpful, and especially if you're playing somebody with a very clear weakness, having a secondary can be just honestly amazing. The second thing that is very useful, that I'm going to say the vast majority of you guys probably aren't doing, is looking at your frame data and your hitboxes and learning how they actually work and how your character actually works and how that can interact with your worst matchups. I'm going to say right here, this again applies to, every character. You probably want to, learn every single character, how your frame data applies to every single character and how your hitboxes match up versus every single character in the game. But that's, kind of a little bit more than anybody will probably do other than the very best of the best, including myself. So what I'm going to recommend instead is learn how exactly your moves match up versus the other characters that you really struggle with that maybe you don't want to swap to your secondary versus. Let's say that I'm playing somebody like, Pokemon Trainer versus somebody like Donkey Kong. I want to learn exactly how fast my moves come out so that I can tell, what moves I can use very close up to beat out his moves versus, what moves I'm going to have to use to try to outspace him, maybe as Charizard versus Donkey Kong. And the essential way of how you can do this is to go into training mode and then turn on the, press L to move forward 1 frame, use your attack, see how long it takes to come out and hit your opponent, and then how long it takes to end. Essentially you can test that by holding shield and seeing when your move ends. And there you go, now you know the hitbox essentially, and you know the frame data essentially, at least well enough to use into an actual game. Now you know that if you're at a certain range, I should probably be using this, and I could probably outspeed him by using this other move. Now, I'm going to say again, you probably don't want to do this for every single character because it will take, honestly, just forever. But against your worst matchups, this can really even the odds because you're going to know exactly what to use, when to use it. And even if your options are a little bit worse versus their options, you're going to have the advantage of knowing how everything interacts. Again, this does take a while to do, and it is, somewhat difficult to do. But I'm going to say right here, it's going to be 100% worth your time to learn. The third thing is a thing that we oftentimes see pro players doing a few months into the meta of a new Smash game, and this is going to be optimizing your combos on your characters, and on certain other matchups that again you aren't doing the best versus. Now, I'm going to start off right here by saying, of course, when we're in these early days of Smash Ultimate, you probably just want to focus mainly on getting your bread and butter combos down. You want to get your 2 to 3 hit combos that you can very easily pull off in a tournament consistently down, and then continue from there. But I'm also going to say early on, if you're already finding matchups that you're very much struggling with, try to optimize a few, longer, harder to do combos on those certain characters. Now, eventually you want to get really good combos on every character in the game with a little bit of practice. And by a little bit, I mean years of practice. But early on, you can just figure out the matchups that you aren't doing that well versus, let's say, Samus, pick up your character and try to practice combos again and again and again on them. Now, essentially how you're going to do this is just go into training mode, use your different attacks, and see what moves combo into other moves. For example, I was using someone like Squirtle yesterday and trying to learn exactly what comboed on Lucario. There isn't really a guide for this online, you just kind of have to do it for yourself. So what I figured out is I could go down throw, wait a little bit, get an up air, and then land, sometimes up tilt, sometimes not, and then up air, forward air. And that worked pretty well. And even though it was kind of awkward to actually pull off, if I could get that in a real game, that's going to make so I can get around 40%, while otherwise if I just did a down throw forward air, that's like, 18%. Sure, one's easier to do, but learning what you have to do, learning these hard combos on the characters that you're having the hardest troubles versus, I think that's really a good thing to get better at the game and a good thing to make your hardest matchups a little bit easier. Again, pro players in the long run will probably learn the best combos on every single character, and you should probably in the long run practice for the best combos on every single character, but this can be a good start, especially right now. The fourth thing I'm going to say right here that you can see a lot of pro players doing is playing versus the best players possible. They're playing versus the other top players in the world, getting the best practice possible, people that are going to push them to their limits, and as you see, they're getting better and better and better, and they're just improving at a massive rate because their training partners are pushing them. And while you can't play versus the best players in the entire game unless they are, specifically in your region, there are ways to essentially do this in Smash Ultimate, even online. And some of the best ways to do this is to A, probably not play in the quick play or even play in just, random online matches, because while these can sometimes give you really good players to practice versus, it's kind of like going into the lottery where one game you'll get an amazing player, but another game, it's just a Toon Link spamming side B the entire game, and that's not going to give you way too much practice. So what should you do instead of just randomly going online? That seems like the only option. Well, there are some other options. One of them is to first off, go onto smashcourts.com, not sponsored, and just look at different characters that you're really having a struggle playing versus, and ask people in their match section, hey, does anyone want to play a game? And try to get some practice in there. Now, I'm going to say this is going to be very good for you because it's going to A, help you versus people that you're having struggles with, and B, the majority of people in Discords like this, in competitive Discords, are wanting to get better, are putting in a lot of effort, and are, in general, going to be a lot better than the average quick play person. I'm not going to say everyone is, but in general, that's going to kind of be how it is. Now, secondarily, you could also go onto a website called AnthersLadder.com, and you can go on there, make an account, and actually essentially just play a good online ranking mode. And personally, this has helped me quite a bit. You can just get onto these matches, set your main, set the characters you want to play, and just play best of threes versus other people. You can rank up and down, getting better and worse, and actually get some pretty darn good practice. And again, like Discords, the only people really using this are people that want to be competitive, that want to be good, that want to have people pushing their limits, and people that just will probably not want to lose their rankings, so they're going to be trying their best. So you can get the best practice, essentially humanly possible online. Now, it would be even better if you could just randomly play versus pro players online. If you could somehow find them to play versus you, that'd be great. But a lot of times you can't find that, so these can be some other good options. Personally, I've been doing this a lot. I think it's really fun for me because you don't just play versus random rule sets all the time. But it is up to you. Again, though, I would recommend it. One thing that I'm going to say a lot of pro players do that is pretty obvious, but I'm going to lead it to a bigger point later, is that pro players play the game a ton. And by that, I mean a lot more than just about anybody else. During the first few weeks of Smash Ultimate's release, they've been playing it like 6 to 8 hours a day, about. And as well before that, they oftentimes had a lot of practice in the previous games, around 2 to 4 hours a day. And yeah, that's just a lot of practice. And the more hours you get into a game, the more you feel comfortable, the more you can play your character, and just the more well you're going to be doing in your matches. And I think that is pretty obvious. But this leads to a bigger point that I'm going to say to you. Right now, I'm going to ask you guys to try to decide exactly how good you want to be at the game. And this is not, trying to judge you at all. It's completely just what you want to do. Do you want to be an amazing player? Do you want to top your local PGR? Maybe you want to try to put like 5 to 6 hours into the game a day if you possibly can and make time for that. It will sacrifice other stuff, but if that's what you want, then go for it. On the other hand, if you just want to become a pretty good player that can hopefully beat everybody around you, putting in maybe 1 to 3 hours a day can be a really good idea for that. Maybe 1 hour in practice and training, in Discord looking for combos, and then 2 hours just, straight up practicing the game. As well, if you're a person that just wants to enjoy the game and just get better by just playing it whenever you want to play it, that's completely fine as well. Obviously, you won't become the best player, and you're still gonna have a lot of struggles versus other people that are a lot better than you, but you can actually get pretty good at the game still and just enjoy yourself maybe more than other players, depending on what you want. Essentially just, boils down to, do you have a lot of fun winning a lot of games and putting in a ton of time and getting a reward out of it, or do you have more fun just playing the game and enjoying it? Really, there are different ways people enjoy the game, and it is 100% right now up to you. Again, if you want to become a pro player, putting a lot more time into the game obviously shows its results, while if maybe you just want to become better, it's completely fine just to put maybe a few hours into the game every day, or if you just don't really care, do whatever you want and just follow the other steps, and that can help you. But anyways, those are my own personal things that I see a lot of pro players doing that I think the majority of other players don't really do way too much or don't really think about way too much that can be definitely worth your time. Now, some of these I'm going to say again, do take a decent amount of effort, and it will completely depend on you if you want to do them, if you don't want to do them, really what your goal is in the end. But I just want to put these out on the table so you can kind of decide what exactly you want to do, as I think a lot of people just don't really know where to go and don't really think about this stuff. So I thought this would be helpful. Anyways, as always, guys, though, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your own personal opinion about this, or things that you feel like other people really aren't doing that they might want to start doing. As always, though, guys, press subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Top by the screen right now is a card for a play of some more Smash Ultimate discussion videos like this one, so maybe check that out if you want to. As always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a smashing day.